Whilst FiiO tends to be more focused on portable audio products, they do in fact have a couple of desktop-orientated offerings as well. Because of that focus for on-the-go items, their line of desktop products certainly has not grown as quickly as the rest of their portfolio, but they haven't abandoned the desktop segment, and to prove that, they've released this, the K3. If you're familiar with FiiO's devices, then the overall design and look of the K3 might just remind you of the Q1 Mark II. Where the Q1 is slim and trim, the K3 looks a bit like the shorter and fatter younger brother. Just like the Q1, we've got a volume pot on the extreme right of the front panel, as well as both a 3.5mm single-ended and a 2.5mm balanced headphone connection. Although the ones on the K3 are black in color as opposed to the contrasting gold color found on the Q1. This time around, the gain and bass boost switches are also located on the front, just where you'd expect them to be on a desktop-orientated audio device. Over on the rear is a 3.5mm analog line-out port, a USB Type-C power and data connector, a USB compliant switch, which allows you to select between USB 1.0 and USB 2.0, an RCA coaxial output, as well as a full-sized optical output connector. On the one hand, it's great to see that the K3 could happily be used to convert a USB audio signal into a coax or optical one, as it means that the K3 could act as the middleman between your PC and your stereo system if your stereo system doesn't have a USB input. But on the other hand, it's a shame that the only digital input that the K3 has is the USB one. The outer casing is metal, which sports this really nice soft touch matte black finish, which seems to be the same as the finish found on the Q1 Mark II if my memory serves me. In terms of overall functionality, well, it's a mini desktop DAC and amplifier, although there's no analog line in, so you can't use the K3 purely as an amplifier, but that's no biggie. The very useful features that we've got on offer here is the bass boost and the gain switch. The bass boost gives you a healthy 6 dB increase in the bass region, whereby the biggest increase sits at the 30 Hz mark. Having a bass boost can be a really great feature, especially for mini open back headphones and small desktop speakers. So, whilst this bass boost is effective, I do feel that the boost extends too far, as it affects frequencies all the way up to 3 kHz. But between 600 Hz and 3 kHz, the effect is just a mere 1 dB at most. The other downside is also that the bass boost cannot be applied to the line out, unfortunately. Moving on to the gain switch, this gives you the option to drive more power-hungry cans, as well as toning things down for those really sensitive multi-BA in-ear monitors. But we should keep in mind that the K3 is entirely powered by the USB port, and so the available power output is rather limited. For the 3.5mm single-ended output, you can expect a maximum of about 120 milliwatts into a 32 ohm load, whereas the 2.5mm balanced output will kick things up to 200 milliwatts into a 32 ohm load. Then if we look on the back, we've got two more features to check out. The first is the USB compliant switch. This is something you don't see on many devices, and what it allows you to do is to connect the K3 up to a modern USB port or an older USB 1 port. So this is just to extend the compatibility of the K3 with a wider range of devices, including legacy ones. Then there's also that 3.5mm line-out port. As is the case with any line-out, this bypasses the internal amplifier, so that you've got a signal going straight from the DAC stage to whatever analog device you want to connect the K3 to. But FiiO went a step further here and enabled the volume pot on the front, so that between the DAC stage and this line out, there is actually a preamp control. Personally, I love this, as it allows you to control the volume of your PC from the K3, rather than having to adjust the volume within the digital domain on your PC. The only real downside here for the K3 is that the line out does not get muted when you plug in a pair of headphones on the front. So if you've got a pair of powered speakers hooked up to the K3, then you'll probably want to turn them off first before removing the cable. But of course that is only if you'd want the speakers to be muted whilst you've got headphones connected. In terms of the overall sound character and signature, well, the K3 is a DAC amp. FiiO knows what they're doing, and the K3 performs as expected. It offers a clean and transparent sound and will give you a better quality audio experience than the vast majority of onboard sound cards. But it of course won't give you quite the level of detail retrieval, clarity or textured bass that a more competent device like something from the iFi micro line of devices will. But for what it is, I think the K3 is a great sounding little device. It's perfectly suited to IEMs, even those high sensitivity multi-BA configurations, thanks to a very quiet output stage. My only disappointment with the sound is that bass boost, as it just extends too far into the frequency range for my own liking. Instead of just giving some oomph to the low bass notes, the sound overall becomes a bit warmer and boomier. That's by no means necessarily a bad thing, I just tend to prefer to have a bass boost that only affects the bass region. The bottom line of the K3 is that it's affordable, it's well built, and it sounds very respectable given the modest price tag. Where I wouldn't be able to recommend the K3 is if you've got low sensitivity headphones, especially open back ones. As mentioned, the K3 is powered entirely by the USB port that is connected to it, and so that just isn't going to provide enough juice to adequately drive more demanding headphones. But if your primary headphones don't have a particularly low sensitivity, or you use IEMs like FiiO's own FH5, FA7 or the latest FA1, then the K3 will be perfectly fine for your use. Heck, even the Mi Audio Pinnacle P1, which can be surprisingly difficult to drive properly, gets considerably louder than what I'm comfortable with, even on low gain from the K3. What's more is that the K3 is compact enough to chuck into your laptop bag so you can take a good quality audio device with you wherever you take your laptop. And perhaps the best part is that it'll only set you back $110. And considering all the features and functions, that's a perfectly acceptable asking price for what I can happily describe as a great value entry-level product. So I hope that gives you all the info you need from the K3. That's all from me for now, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.